कुञ्ज विहारी गोपीजना वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी यशोदानंदन ब्रजजनरंजन जमुना तीरवनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, Nittai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Nittai Gaur Hari Bol, Nittai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nittai Gaur Hari Bol. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat nashtraprayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhakti bhavati nashtaki krishnaya vasudevaya devaki nandanaya cha Nanda Gopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. So we welcome everyone for today morning Srimad Bhagavatam class at ISKCON Carthage, NVCC. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam 6th Canto, chapter number 4, verse number 48. The title of the chapter is Hamsa Guya Prayers. Mai ananta gune anante gunato gunavigraha yada sittata evadyaha swayambhu sambhut ajaha Mai ananta gune anante gunato gunavigraha Yada sittata evadyaha swayambhu sambhut ajaha Mai ananta gune anante gunato gunavigraha Yada sittata evadyaha swayambhu samabhut ajaha Swayambhu Samabhut Ajaha. Is it visible? Yes. Anyone else? Mai ananta gune nante gunato gunavigraha yada sittata evadya Swayambhu Samabhut Ajaha. Mataji's. Mai ananta gune nante gunato gunavigraha yada sittata evadya Swayambhu Samabhut Ajaha. What word meaning? Mai, in me. Ananta gune, possessing unlimited potency. Anante, unlimited. Gunataha, for my potency known as Maya. Guna Vigraha, the universe, which is a result of the modes of nature. Yada, when, Asit, it came into existence. Tataha, therein. Eva, indeed. Adyaha, the first living being. Swayambhuhu, Lord Brahma. Samabhut, was born. Ajaha, although not from a material mother. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. I am the reservoir of unlimited potency, and therefore I am known as unlimited or all-pervading. From my material energy, the cosmic manifestation appeared within me. And in this universal manifestation appeared the chief being, Lord Brahma, who is your source and is not born of a material mother. Purport. This is a description of the history of the universal creation. The first cause is the Lord Himself, the Supreme Person. From Him, Brahma is created. And Brahma takes charge of the affairs of the universe. The universal affairs of the material creation depend upon the material energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is therefore the cause of the material creation. The entire cosmic manifestation is described herein as Guna Vigraha, the form of the Lord's qualities. From the cosmic universal form, the first creation is Lord Brahma, who is the cause of all living entities. In this regard, Srila Madhvacharya describes the unlimited attributes of the Lord. Pratiyekasho gunanam tu nihasimatvam udiryate tadanantyam tu gunatas te chanantahi sankhya ato ananta guno vishnu gunato ananta evacha parasya shakte vidheva shurvate. The Lord has innumerable potencies, and all of which are unlimited. Therefore, the Lord Himself and all His qualities, forms, pastimes, and paraphernalia are also unlimited. Because Lord Vishnu has unlimited attributes, He is known as Ananta. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyataya Deshatarine Namo Mahabadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gautase Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Once again, we welcome everyone for today morning Srimad Bhagavatam class. First of all, I take blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas, in particular all the senior Vaishnavas, that I can speak something on this interesting verse spoken by Lord Vishnu to Daksha. Hare Krishna. I intend to speak this subject matter in two parts. I'll come to the presentation. I kind of quickly today morning prepare a short presentation. But before that, I'll just want to briefly discuss about the context which is going on here. Just to clarify, I was asked to speak in Hindi, but actually the subject was about creation. I had already prepared something before coming for the class where I'm going to quote some research work. So I was not very confident of my Hindi last minute if I would be able to translate, so I'm sticking to English. Bear with that. So what's going on in this chapter right now here is Daksha, this is his second birth. We read about all this in the 4th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam. And now Daksha is born to the Prachetas, and he has gone to perform severe austerities and penances, and there he offered Hamsaguya prayers. And being pleased by his penance, not penance, devotional penance actually. That's what Prabhupada highlights here. Being pleased by his devotional penance, Lord Vishnu appeared to Daksha and began to speak to Daksha. This is something similar, which is what happened to Daksha, is what happened to Brahma, as we read in the 2nd canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th chapter, where Sukadeva Goswami, when he had to answer Parikshit Maharaja's questions, there he remembered the conversation between Vishnu and Brahmaji, and that discussion comes in the 9th chapter. And there also Brahmaji performed penance, tapa. Lord Vishnu says himself that Brahma, I instructed you to perform tapa, you performed it, and I'm pleased, therefore I have appeared unto you. Like that, Daksha is son of Brahma, we know of that. So similar context going on, where Vishnu appeared to Daksha here, and similarly in the previous cantos, Vishnu appeared to Brahmaji. But the question arises, why did Vishnu appear either to Brahma and either to Daksha for that reason? There's an interesting verse which comes when Lord Shri Krishna or the Vishnu speaks to Brahma as well as to Daksha both. In 2nd canto, 9th chapter, verse number 23, Vishnu, while speaking to Brahma, he says, I'll not go on the whole verse. I'll just quote this verse and focus on the main theme here. Vishnu says, Pratyadishtam maya tatra, which means I ordered you to do what? Tvai karma vimuhate, when you were confused, what is your duty at that point of time? Tapo me hridayam sakshad, I instructed you to perform tapasya. Atmaham tapaso vanagaha, the sacrifice, the devotional penance is my soul. So Vishnu speaks to Brahma and he says, Tapo me hridayam sakshad. This is 2nd canto 9th chapter. Let's come to the 6th canto, 4th chapter, 46 verse, just 2 verses prior to this. Vishnu speaks to Daksha now. And Vishnu says, Tapo me hridayam brahmams tanur vidya kriya kriti. And the verse goes on. And the key line because of which Lord Vishnu appeared both to Brahma and to Daksha is Tapome Hridayam Brahmans, where Vishnu is addressing Daksha and he says, Tapasya is my life, Tapasya is my soul, and Tapasya is non-different than I. So Srila Prabhupada here in this purport of the 46th verse does not elaborate much on this devotional penance, but in the 2nd canto 9th chapter verse number 23, There Prabhupada speaks elaborately on this subject matter of penance, particularly devotional penance, and how important it is. In essence, just to summarize the subject matter, why Lord appeared to both Brahma and Daksha? Because Lord was pleased by the devotional penance performed by Brahmaji and Dakshaji. And in that purpose, Prabhupada writes, what is this penance that Brahmaji performed? That was devotional penance. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Shri Krishna again and again repeats, it's not by Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga or Ashtanga Yoga. It's only through Bhakti Yoga I can be known, I can be understood like that. And therefore, in the purport, Prabhupada writes, the material sense gratification and to have a spiritual goal or to expect spiritual success goes ill together. Or in other words, material happiness or spiritual happiness goes ill together. And then Prabhupada says, even if a sadhaka or a devotee wants to keep his feet in both the worlds, Lord being merciful will deprive him of his possessions. And even if the devotee is so adamant that he still want to latch onto the latch onto the material world, he still want to have some possessions here, Lord will again make sure that he would again deprive him of all his possessions. And he will continue showing his mercy to the devotee until he has come to this realization that only Krishna consciousness matters. And Prabhupada writes, when a person is deprived of his material possessions, then he becomes very unpopular amongst his family members. And then Prabhupada says, like this, by the mercy of Lord, he goes through an austerity, a penance. In essence, Prabhupada concludes, as a sadhaka, we have the opportunity to voluntarily accept the devotional penances, or else wait for Krishna's mercy to descend. When we are forced into it, we might have to struggle with it. When we volunteer for it, then we would find Krishna consciousness joyful. So in this regard, that's the point here about devotional penance. That's the reason Lord appeared both to Daksha as well as Brahmaji. Now, this is something which we can say this happened millions of years ago. Do we have some evidence or relevance of it in today's time? Yes. Just like Lord appeared to Brahma, Lord appeared to Daksha and blessed both of them, you be successful in your devotional service that you want to do it. Similarly, the Lord appeared. In other words, we have a modern day example in the form of our founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada. His Holiness Yadunandan Swami, many years ago, he wrote his offering for Srila Prabhupada, and there he writes something very beautiful. And he says that, my dear spiritual master, my dear Srila Prabhupada, how your life is actually a practical example of how if somebody even today performs devotional penance, he would get the blessing and the mercy of the Lord. And then he quotes about all Prabhupada's life. Like from your childhood, you were performing Rath Yatra, you were worshipping Radha Krishna, and then you entered into Grihastha ashram, yet you remain steadfast to follow the instruction of your spiritual master. Then you took to Vanaprastha. In whatever situation of your life you were there, your focus was somehow other serve Krishna and respect and your Guru Maharaj. And then finally you went to Jhansi, you started League of Devotees. You know, the will of the Lord was such, the Lord called you to Vrindavan, you stayed in Radha Damodar temple, you got the blessings of Rupa Goswami, Jiva Goswami, and then the Lord directed you, made you sit on Jaladuta, took you to America, and made you do something which was unthinkable, which was unexpected, that has never ever happened in the history. Even Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu traveled only all over Bharat or India. Never ever a sannyasi had traveled all the continents and had spread Krishna consciousness to the magnanimity, to the extent Srila Prabhupada did. So there His Holiness Yadunandan Maharaj says, Prabhupada, you proved us that as Brahmaji performed devotional penance, as Daksha performed devotional penance, Lord appeared and Lord was pleased. Similarly, by your activities, by your life, you have given us a living example, even in today's day and time. If we practice devotional penance, we will receive the mercy and blessings of the Lord. And actually, that makes a lot of sense for us. Daksha was son of Brahma. And we are also, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, have a direct relationship with Brahma. You know, we say our grandfather, great-grandfather. Brahma is the greatest grandfather because we all are part of Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Parampara. In essence, if we follow Srila Prabhupada's formula, we also have that opportunity to achieve the same blessing, same mercy as Daksha or Brahmaji achieved, as Srila Prabhupada achieved, and by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we can achieve. So that was the point how and why Lord appeared both to Brahmaji and Daksha like that. And then the discussion goes on in the set of verses. And just in the previous verse, the 47th verse, Lord said to Daksha, hey Daksha, before the creation I existed, during the creation I exist, and after the creation I exist. In a nutshell, Lord establishes that beyond this material creation, there is a spiritual world, and where I exist at all time, at all places, and all situations. And now coming to this particular verse, where is it? Yeah. Well, display activity will start now. So here we come to the 48th verse now, and here in this verse, in the previous verse, after describing that how I existed before this world and I continue to exist beyond this world, now in this verse Krishna says, or Vishnu says, I am the source of this material creation. So when the subject matter came, in fact in the Prabhupada, the very first line writes, this is a description of the history of the universal creation. When I was reading this, I began to think about what is the perspective of these scientists about creation today. We know that age-old theory, the Big Bang theory, etc., etc. The times have changed and something more has happened now. And I'd like to briefly speak about how scientists, what I would wish to speak now is, how scientists are really literally struggling so hard to prove something which is already proved. They're just not coming to the right conclusion. They're not just picking up the right book, have the right references, and they're struggling hard. They're wasting millions and billions of dollars of taxpayers' money, and they keep on giving theory after theory. But there is still a very interesting phenomenon. The Vedic truths which has been given to us, let's say, by the sages in the past, many of them have become the subject matter of research in the modern times. Unfortunately, the scientists still do not give the credit to the Vedic literatures for that. This is something where we want to see, and then we will come to the conclusion why these people are still not understanding the simple facts of life and how fortunate we are. While I was thinking about this subject matter, I was reading some paper, and I was so happy, thank God I'm not in research field anymore. And I'm happy studying Bhagavad Gita, where Prabhupada has so easily and simply put the facts of life. So let me just see if we can put it together. So what is the scientific view of anti-material world? So Srila Prabhupada in 1959 had written an essay which was later published as a book titled as Easy Journey to Other Planets. And the very first opening line of that essay, this is Srila Prabhupada's verse. At that point of time in 1959, there was an article published in the newspaper, and from that Prabhupada had taken a cue and written this article. And what did the article said? In 1959, two American scientists were awarded with the Nobel Physics Prize. A prize for what? They had discovered something what is called as antiproton, which means the matter exists in two forms, as particles and antiparticles. Don't get confused, I'll explain in a short while. What does it mean actually? It means three things. We have this material world that we know of, and according to this new theory for which they got the Nobel Prize, there is something called as anti-material. When I first read this, immediately the 15th chapter, verse number 1 of Bhagavad Gita came to my mind. Urdhva Mula Madaha Shakam, where Lord Shri Krishna says this material world is nothing but the perverted reflection of the spiritual world. So this antimatter is spinning in the reverse orbit. That was the first conclusion. Second, there exists in another world which is not made up of matter, it is made up of antimatter, antiparticles. And the third thing which they concluded was, if these two worlds ever have to come and collide with each other, then both will cease to exist. And then Srila Prabhupada's article begins. And Prabhupada says, well, we do agree with the first 2 points. Yes, there is an antiparticle. We do exist that there is an antimaterial world, but we do not agree with the third point, because the spiritual world never ceases to exist. It always remains as it is. So then I thought, okay, this was back in 1959. What had happened to the research now? This is back how many years? Almost close to 50, 60 years ago. where the scientists or what research has brought us to after 50 or 60 years later on. Let's take a look at it. Where are we after 50 or 60 years? Bear with me, this is going to be a little technical subject. I hope I will not bore you too much with this. The theory of anti-worlds have actually become a big subject matter, a hot topic of research within the theoretical physics. Many big scientists and universities are having a tremendous research on this subject matter. And this anti-material world have developed into something what they call as parallel universes. And what they now call it as multiverse. If you really want to understand it, I'm not going to recommend it, but I'm just telling you, don't go and read the scientific research paper. That's really confusing. Marvel Studio, which is a film production house, they make a lot of sci-fi movies. They explain better than the scientists what is this parallel universes and multiverses. I haven't seen the movie, but I just know they do it. So I'm not quoting from them, but this is a subject of science fiction, but there's a lot of research going on here in this regard. So they have come to the conclusion that there is something called as parallel universe, where there is a reality in this world and there is a similar reality in another world, which means according to them, now current scientific understanding is, we don't only exist here, we are simultaneously existing in another world. That is why they call it as a parallel world like that. And for that, great minds, great thinkers who are given great awards, great acknowledgements, and definitely given hefty salary packages, all have been working to come to some conclusion. Then I looked into it. Have they come to any conclusion? And their research said the research is undergoing. They have not come to any conclusion here. However, if you look back, all of us know of it. All of us are studying Srila Prabhupada for years together. We know that the sages in the past, let's say Lord Shri Krishna for that reason. Okay, let's talk about the sages and seers for that reason. They have spoken about Vaikuntha. They have written about it. There are so many facts. There's so many books written about it. So question arises, when these things are already existing in Vedic literature, the modern scientists given so much acknowledgement, they're given so much credit, they're given so much accolades and awards, why these Vedic seers and sages are disregarded, first of all. Second thing is, not only that, they don't only disregard them, they don't even pay attention to their writings, what they've written. And I'm just going to present to you the similarity. There are some more things that the scientists are working on today, which actually Srila Prabhupada have written in his books and writings, and have clearly mentioned that these are the subject matter of great research work, if and only if the scientists would pay attention. When I was studying this last evening, then I thought, you know what, probably that's the whole idea of Srila Prabhupada to create this whole Vedic cosmology. To draw the attention of the scientists of the whole world, bring them to Mayapur and show them the temple of Vedic planetarium, where they get a sense of how authentic and how genuine the Vedic scriptures are, nonetheless. So, what about the writers and commentators in Vedic literature? Well, they don't pay attention. The reason I was looking into it, why they don't pay attention to it, you all probably know of it. The moment it comes about Vedic history, the one word which they often use to describe any Vedic history, any guess what is that? Mythology. The moment you say mythology, any scientific mindset would not pay attention to it. And they totally disregard it. Let's briefly take a look at some of the Vedic concepts which are in vogue. I meant to say, which has become a major research subject matter in the modern scientific disciplines. Kapaladev in 3rd canto talks about Sankhya Yoga. And he speaks something very interesting. We read this in 2nd canto, in the 5th chapter, also in the 3rd canto. Multiple times the subject matter is repeated. And it says, the gross matter, before you have the presence of gross matter, before that, the qualities of the matter manifest. For example, if I say the earth is recognized by the aroma as a fragrance. So our perspective of looking at it is, if there is an aroma can only exist if the earth exists. But the Vedic perspective, the Sankhya perspective is, the aroma, the quality exists first, which means the subtle exists first, and from subtle comes the gross. This is what Kapiladev's Sankhya Yoga system, this is called as, on the left what you see is the tanmatras, and on the right what you see is the gross, dravya, earth, water, bhumi, apo, nalo, vayu, like that. And sound, touch, form, taste, and smell, they are said to be sense objects in English, or tanmatras in Sanskrit for that reason, like that. Srila Prabhupada writes something very interesting. This is actually 2nd canto, 5th chapter, verse number 25th translation. From the darkness of false ego, the first of the 5 elements, namely the sky, is generated. A subtle form is the quality of sound, exactly as a seer in relationship with the seen. Let's take a look. Prabhupada in the purport writes, it is said that first the tanmatra, which is sound, is created, then the sky. In layman's terminology, just to give you a simple idea, according to Sankhya or the Sankhya Yoga, the sound is the source of creation. Everything have manifested from sound. Is that clear? We all know of this fact. In Bible it is said, let there be creation, and the creation happened. And we say the sound of Om is the origin of whole creation. According to Sankhya, the sound is the first tanmatra from which the sky came, and all that, everything has happened. Now there is something interesting in the science, in modern science today. There is a theory called as string theory. What is a string theory? I'll just read out what the string theory as it is. String theory is a concept in physics that states the universe is constructed by tiny vibrating strings, smaller than the smallest subatomic particles. Strings, frequencies, sound are nothing but frequency. And as they vibrate, they create matter, energy, and all sorts of phenomena like electromagnetism, gravity, etc. This is a big subject matter research, and our Sankhya Yoga begins with that the first element that was created was sound. And not only that, I'm not going to speak on it now, but I'll just leave it for you to pay attention later on. Where is that verse? Yeah, here. Because I would not have time to elaborate. If you see here, it is said that this was created from the darkness of false ego. Now there is something which is called as dark matter and dark energy. I'll speak about dark matter, but this is something, a reference for dark energy for the scientists to look at. I'll come to dark matter right now. Let's take a look. So this is about string theory, the sound. And there is another very famous concept in science today which the scientists are really, really working hard. Actually, this dark matter concept was first coined back in 1931 by a Swiss scientist. What does it mean actually? Before 1931, Einstein had also spoken about this dark matter. Before 1931, we all have studied this in our physics. What was taught to us in our physics, if you remember 8th and 9th standard, this whole universe is tied together through the gravitational pull. There's a gravitational centrifugal and centripetal force that keeps the whole universe together. This is an outdated syllabus, by the way. In 1931, it was proven false. But we still study. I don't know if students are studying that now today, but we studied at least. In 1931, the Swiss scientists came up with this theory, and actually mathematical model, in fact, which proved that there is not only gravitational force which is keeping these cosmic entities together in this universe, there is another force. Now, if there is a force, the force can only come from a mass. Gravitational pull can only exist if there is a mass, which means if there is a mass, there is a matter. If it is a matter, it has to be tangible. If it is tangible, it has to be seen. Now there exists an energy which is far greater than gravitational pull, which is keeping this whole universe together. It has mass, which they have not yet come to conclusion, but it is intangible. They are not able to see it. And because they are not able to see it, they call it as dark matter. And according to their research, 80% of this universe is filled with dark matter, which has this energy which is keeping the universe together, but it is not visible to the eyes. Something very interesting Srila Prabhupada writes in the 3rd canto about the subject matter of dark matter. What is this dark matter? Prabhupada writes, Bhutanam chidra dratvam bahir antaram evacha pranendriyatma dhishnyattvam nabasovrati lakshanam. 3rd canto, 26th chapter, verse number 34. Prabhupada talks about here. Before I speak about this, let me just quote a verse from Bhagavad Gita. In 7th chapter, verse number 4, Krishna says, Bhumir apo nalo vayu. Earth, water, fire, air, ether. Kham. What is that kham? That is ether, right? And now look at what Prabhupada writes. This translation of this verse, the activities and characteristics of this ethereal element can be observed. What is ether? Ether means space. And that is what they are referring as a dark matter. As accommodation for the room for the external and internal existences of all living entities. There is a space outside of us, there is space within us, there is a space within molecules that is called as ether. Namely, the field of activities of the vital air, which is internal, senses in the mind, and in the Prabhupada writes. This verse is the potential basis of great scientific work, for it explains how subtle forms are generated from the ethereal element, which is also known as Nabha, what their characteristics and actions are, and how the tangible elements, namely air, fire, water, earth, are manifested from the subtle form. To put it into a context for us, if the scientists today would have to refer and use the Vedic scripture as a basis of reference for them, then for sure in the periodic table, they're going to add ether as one of the elements. But the research will not conclude with that only. To understand fully, we also need to understand mind, intelligence, false ego. They would have to give a location in the periodic table for that also. Yet the research will not conclude unless you also add as about Atma and Paramatma. And that is how the research will bring us to the conclusion of how Krishna is the source of the whole creation, if it has to be done in a right scientific manner. And Prabhupada says here that this is a subject matter of great research, which people today call it as, or the scientists today call it as, dark matter. And what is the dark energy? The false ego, the ignorance of the false ego. I'm not intending to speak on this. So, a very famous astrobiologist who has hundreds of books on his name. He's the author of more than hundreds of books. He is the director of this astrophysics department at Columbia University back in America. And he wrote a research paper and as a part of an article where he says, this is what we do not know about the universe. And I mean, the scientist, he's a top-notch scientist in the world, and he's saying we actually know nothing. And he gives various things for us to know that they know nothing. First, he says, we do not know why the universe exists. Well, there are many promising theories, Big Bang theory, string theory. Now, there are all these theories which talks about universe exists. But these all are possibilities. Why it came into existence? There is no research work and there is no understanding. It's all hypothesis. Second thing he says, we do not know whether life exists anywhere else. See, all of you while looking at this, take a look at it that you know the answers for all of this. We know why the universe exists, why material world exists. It's a rehabilitation for the revolting souls. Life exists, we know of it. But the scientists, they're spending life after life, so much effort. They just have to get a copy of Bhagavad Gita, trust me, not even Bhagavatam, to get the answers to these questions. We do not know whether life exists anywhere else. And he writes, human beings on this planet are busy playing with the physical and chemicals on this earth, but they don't even know about the planet Earth itself. Forget about life on other planets. We have not yet explored within the earth enough to know what is this all earth about. Our exploration continues. And then he says, we do not understand our own biology. We do not know how it functions. And our own biology is so complicated. For every individual part of a body, there are expertise for that. Eye surgeon, different expertise are there. And he says we still are struggling to figure it out why it is. In case if we knew how our biology functions, then we would have replicated DNA and RNA. You understand DNA and RNA? This is the code by which this whole body gets into an action. This whole form has taken a shape. If we knew how this biology functions and DNA and RNA, we would have replicated the code and we would have created our own human species. Or any other species for that, but we have failed to do so. We do not know how Earth works, what is inside of it, what is outside of it. We do not know how magnetic field of planet works, etc. And then he says, whatever we know about Earth, we only know by observing the meteoroids. We don't know anything about it. We can't prove and solve so many math problems. There's so much to learn about it. We do not know how to make an artificial intelligence, which means making artificial intelligence intelligent enough to work on its own. There is something called in today's world Chat GPT. I don't know how many of you are kind of aware of this. For ChatGPT to function also, there are programmers and coders who are working on it. When I was a little bit looking at artificial intelligence, then I went into that. So when I was signing up for that ChatGPT, they said, thank you for coming to this page. Would you like to give a feedback to us so we can improve our artificial intelligence tool? So I was like, who's improving it ultimately? There are artificial engineers who are sitting, who are programming and making improve. So he says, we don't know. Like this, the science or the modern science, all credit to all those great scientists who have done a lot of hard work. And whatever it is, they've done a lot of hard work, but they have failed to answer anything. And I ain't saying this. This is Caleb Schaff, one of the most famous scientists, saying this. However, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna puts it so simply. Krishna says, why do you struggle? I am your father. Just accept as the truth it is. Mamayavamsu jiva loka jiva bhuta sanatana manas shashnani indriyani prakriti sani karshati. Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur writes very beautifully in this verse. He says, when Krishna says, Arjuna, why are you struggling so hard? Every living entity is my part and parcel except the truth. Arjuna said, my dear Lord, I am not struggling. I am enjoying my life. Krishna says, no, you are struggling. And like the common man today says, no, I'm enjoying my life. We're seeing what's going to happen after this death. After death, who sees about next life, etc. The life is meant to be enjoyed. Krishna in the same set of verses says, Arjuna, when you die, you accept another set of body. And with another set of body, you accept another set of instruments. And Arjuna said, oh, really? What happens after that? I'm just going to skip through that. And Arjuna said, my dear Lord, if we can, we accept another set of body, we accept another set of instruments. Why don't we see this transmigration? Why don't we understand? And this is where I wanted to bring you to a very beautiful verse from Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, because a foolish person cannot understand the truth. Utkramantam sitam vapi bhunjanam va gunanvitam vimudhananupashyanti pashyanti jnana chakshusha. Translation. The foolish cannot understand how a living entity can quit his body, nor can they understand what sort of body he enjoys under the spell of the modes of nature. But one whose eyes are trained in knowledge can see all this. I had a beautiful example of a definition of foolish from one of my senior. What does this foolish means? Life after life, we are changing bodies. We see death happening everywhere, but yet the person thinks he'll continue to live forever. And there was a very interesting example to understand what foolish means. He said, imagine you're traveling in a flight from Pune to Delhi, and your plane is about to land, and suddenly there's a lot of ruckus, chaos in the plane, and you peek outside, you peek in the aisle, and you see there is a man standing with a gun, and he's a terrorist, and he says, the plane has been hijacked. The plane is not going to land in Delhi, the plane is going to go to Calcutta. And everyone is crying, there is hue and cry, and you look at the person sitting right next to you. You look at him, and he has a big smile, and he says, De Tali. And you're confused. Why are you smiling? He says, see, I purchased a ticket to Delhi, and I'm getting a free journey to Calcutta. He's not understanding his hijack. All right, the plane is about to reach to Calcutta. The plane is about to land in Calcutta. Again, there is an announcement. And the hijacker says, okay, the plane is not going to go to Calcutta. The plane is going to go to Kandahar, Afghanistan. Everyone is crying. Oh, what's going to happen? We're going to lose our life, etc. And the man, you imagine, you look at the person next to you, and he's beaming. And he says, Do tali. Congratulate twice. Now you wonder, what happened? He says, देखो, मैंने दिल्ली का टिकट लिया, फोकट में कैलकटा का जर्नी मिला, ना वीजा, ना पासपोर्ट, ना इंटरनेशनल टिकट, अब मुझे अफगानिस्तान जाने का भी मौका मिल रहा है. Like this, life after life, person keeps changing bodies, but he fails to understand what's going on. And it is not something that we need to wait for to see with ourselves. We see that happening everywhere. Unfortunately, it's only after the end of life when we carry the person to the cremation ground, we say, Ram Naam Satya Hai. I wonder for whom it is meant. For one who's departed, for those who have come for that ceremony, now you begin to chant the name because that's the only truth. Anyways, Srila Prabhupada has given this ancient Vedic knowledge in such a simple format. His Holiness Badrinath Maharaj was making a point. His elder brother used to be a teacher in English. So when Badrinath Maharaj was in college, he had a copy of Bhagavad Gita in his room, and his elder brother came, who was a English teacher. And he came to this room and he said, "Oh, you're reading this Bhagavad Gita?" So Badrinaran Maharaj, who was a college student, he said, "Yes." He was a little nervous. What happened? Maybe, I've taken a spiritual path. He would say something. And his elder brother said, "Oh, this book by A.C. Bhaktivedanta, he had made this Bhagavad Gita so simple, anyone can understand." So Badrinaran Maharaj was saying that my brother, who was not even a devotee, acknowledged the fact that Prabhupada have given things in such a simple format, even any layman can understand it. Unfortunately, calling it as a myth, we reject what we have and we continue to struggle life after life. So once again, the world today puts a lot of faith in the science and the scientific theories. But if you study, look back into our own literatures, I little bit spoke a little technical, but even in a simple way, Krishna says, "Aham sarvasya prabhu, mata paratam nanya." So many verses in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Shri Krishna says, "I am the source of everything." Just, let me conclude with this way. We all have received this blessing in the form of the association of devotees, in the form of Srila Prabhupada books. What I personally see when I move around, if somehow people can hear the message of Bhagavad Gita, undoubtedly they would accept it. If not all, but a lot of people. And I'll just conclude with this short example. All of us would have an experience in COVID time. Many devotees around the world did this 18 days of Bhagavad Gita courses. So many people, all of you would agree, so many people have now taken to Krishna consciousness. Because during the COVID time, they got a break from their routine, hectic life, and they somehow latched onto some Bhagavad Gita course and they attended and they're now practicing. I'll just give my one personal example. Recently, a GM of Tata Motors from Uttarakhand had come to visit Pune and he came to see me. I didn't know, and he happened to know me. He came to visit and meet me in one of the evenings this week. And we were talking about it, and I said, he had a tilak, he had a bead bag, Kantimala, and he said, I wanted to meet you. And I said, "I don't know you. What's the whole thing about it?" So then I asked him, when did you got connected and everything? He said, "I got connected to Krishna consciousness in 2020. He's an IIM graduate and he's doing his PhD in artificial intelligence now because he wants to prepare himself for what all is happening with the changing market." So I said, such a technical person who's still pursuing education. I said, "How come you came to Krishna consciousness, bhakti? Don't you find a little contradictory?" He said, "In 2020, I got COVID. I was hospitalized for 20 days. And there somehow, from one of a common friend, I got a link of one of the Gita lectures." I said, "I heard those 18 days session. And when I heard, it made so much sense to me." He said, "For the last 1.5 years, I'm chanting 16 rounds. He's connected to the local temple in Uttarakhand, local center there. And he said in the next 3 months, his name has been put for initiation." I mean, from Uttarakhand, the local community there has put forward his name for initiation. He's aspiring for initiation from His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj. And and this is not one example. I'm sure all of you would have hundreds of examples also. And this is one of the examples that I have. There are hundreds of examples where people just somehow paid attention to the message of Bhagavad Gita. The life got transformed. So, in conclusion, if I say this whole post-COVID era, it has increased my conviction. If somehow we can just share the message of Bhagavad Gita, create an opportunity for others to hear the message of Bhagavad Gita. They don't have to waste their life. Don't have to become a scientist. I wasted my life. I was a research engineer. Thank God I got Bhagavad Gita at the right time. I feel empathy for scientists because I was of the same background. We need to go out and distribute more Bhagavad Gita and share the message of Srila Prabhupada. With that, I conclude here. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki, Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Hare Krishna.